This is Scott with Starkey Family, fixing and rigging up, and today we got another rig up. While I was climbing a hill today, one of the lines that runs over for the turbo, there's a rubber boot on there, and this actually blew. Well, without this rubber boot on there, I've got no boost, so pretty much I'm running a truck with no turbo. So let me show you my fix, just to get me to a repair shop so I can buy a rubber boot. This side of the highway, and I'm going to try another rig up. I was coming up a hill, and well, this right here, this line here is for my turbo, and as you can see, it blew. So my fix is, let's just try some Gorilla Tape here. Okay, so I've actually taken this line and wrapped it with Gorilla Tape, and then as you see, I've taken strip ties and made a barrier all the way around it. So I'm hoping this holds. I've never tried this fix before, but if it works, guess what, I'll be happy. This will get me to a repair shop anyways, I'm hoping. Okay, I've driven over I'd say a good 100 miles or so easily, and this fix has still been holding up. I just wanted to show everybody that I've actually went and unloaded a load and then drove to another company and picked up a new load. So this is a good fix. Now I'm headed over to the Freightliner dealership to buy the right parts. I want to prove to everybody that my fix does work, and I am proud of this. My truck is still running. I drove here. I have driven it to a company, unloaded, went to another company, reloaded. I'm now at a dealership, and here's my new part. I went and got new clamps, but here's my new part, and it's working good enough. I live about 2 hours from here, so I'm going to go ahead and drive on home. Here's a recap from yesterday. This boot did blow. I put a patch on it. As you see, I made it home, and it worked fine. But we can't leave that on there long term, so this part here that we got at the dealership yesterday, we're going to go ahead and change that out. So I'm going to have to take it apart here, and then up here on top of the engine in front of the valve pan cover, we've got to take the pipe loose up there as well. Now, I want to explain this a little bit because you're probably thinking, where's the alternator and do I have to take the alternator off? The answer to that is no, you do not have to take the alternator off. It is a little bit tight doing it this way, but you don't have to. The reason why I do have the alternator off of here is because I had planned on changing the alternator out today anyways, and just so happens this boot blew yesterday. So if you want to catch my video on how to change the alternator, that video should be put on right before this one here. So let's go ahead and move forward and start taking everything apart. Okay, now for those of you that were not lucky enough to actually go to a dealership like I was, if you end up in like a normal parts store, I'm going to give you the dimensions of this little pipe that you'll have to buy. Okay, so first off, this right here is 1.5 inches inside diameter, 1.75 inches outside diameter, and it is 2.75 inches long. Okay, now I'm on top of the engine here, and we're going to start out right here. But just because of how this is, I'm going to have to take it apart, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to have to do. This right here has a little bolt head right here, and then on this side there's a bolt head. Okay, now I'm going to try to just take one side apart, but I may have to, depending on the tube, take them both apart. But basically what happens is I take that off, and this right here, as you see with this little mechanism, it just swivels up and should release the tube. Now, you see this right here? I am simply going to use a pair of channel locks and put it on here, squeeze it, and that right there, after I pull it over, will be off of this rubber tube. And that right there will free this this pipe up to where I can actually loosen the bottom up down here and pull it off. What you're going to need for this, make your life a little bit easier: a ratchet, an extension, and a 1/2-inch socket, and of course a pair of channel locks for up here on top. I've got this loose now, and as you see, it's not going to interfere with anything. Here is the bolt head that I actually took out. So now I'm going to go for this clamp over and just pull the pipe out of it. So now I can free it up on the bottom. Okay, so now all I've got to do is, since I've got the top free, and you can see it's moving, is I've got to take a screwdriver here, a screwdriver here. This will release these clamps. I will have to come through and cut all these zip ties off to relieve the pressure, and I should be able to just grab a hold of this tube and pull it straight up out of there. As you see, the zip ties got heated on there, which is still fine, but they're easy to break. So actually, the tape that I put on there, the Gorilla tape, is actually holding all these things on there good. Okay, so I took a screwdriver and I went ahead and loosened up this clamp. Now I've got to go back and loosen this one there up a little bit more. But after I do that, I'm just going to simply grab a hold of the tube and pull it straight up out of there. Okay, so first we're going to twist it a little bit and just pull it straight up out of there. Now you don't want to pull in this tube too far because you do have a sensor on here and you do not want to rip that. But in the same aspect, you don't have to take it off either. When taking these little rubber things off, I just use a screwdriver and I just put them inside there like that and just pry them. But I've got one hand holding my camera and the other hand holding a screwdriver, so I can't really video this right now. Okay, now you can see I took the screwdriver and got it to the end. All you're gonna do is just fold it over, just like so, and it will pop off. Okay, so all you're gonna do is you're gonna take a paper towel, you're gonna wet it, clean off both ends, there and down here, and up here on the top tube. And then you're going to, up here on this boot, if you don't replace it, you're going to wipe the inside of it down. You want everything clean before you put it back together. Now, one thing I want to talk about is hose clamps. When you buy these, you can get different grades of hose clamps. Do you see where this is gold on the top here? This is what's called a heavy-duty hose clamp. You can't bend it as easy. This is a higher grade metal, so the chances of it actually tearing up on you or falling apart or backing up is a lot slimmer than a standard one. Now, what I'm going to tell you is, if you have a chance to replace any type of hardware on anything, meaning bolts, clamps, whatever, try to get a heavier grade metal. When you're using cheap components, you get what you pay for. And it's never fun breaking down that side of the road. Before you put all this together,
take your hose clamp and just do that. That way when you've got everything together and your hose clamps are outside of it, this right here will actually make it a lot easier. You can just pull it up over everything, then tighten it. Simple. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to start out by taking this and I'm going to put this onto the pipe. Now that I've got this on, I'm going to go up here on top and put this section of the pipe into that rubber boot. I'm up here on top. Here's the next clamp. We're going to leave it right there. All I'm going to do is take this, shove it in there, okay? And then I'm going to take this right here, after I get the bottom section on, and tighten it up. Ahead and slid this section here in, which I had to use 2 hands to do, because I had to turn the pipe back and forth, and then take my hand and slide this over. So now I'm going to take my screwdriver and add this clamp here, right here, and you can see that like there's a little rib here. There's one right here too. That's what's actually going to keep this from moving. So let me go ahead with a screwdriver and tighten this up. With these ones here, these clamps, you don't have to be afraid to tighten them down. They're not going to break as easy. Okay, so now all I've got to do is go back to the top again and do the clamps with it. Now this is very important. You see this right here? This right here is a radiator line. And of course you've got this metal pipe. You want to make sure that there's an actual gap between them, because if you put this pipe on too tight, it's going to be rubbing right up against it, and one of these two are going to blow on you. So since I've got to use channel locks to press this together, and this is a very tight clamp, I'm going to have to use 2 hands on this. Okay, so basically this is one of them clamps that is a pain in the butt. There is a proper tool for this that actually clamps down on these. I do not have one. So if you're going to use channel locks, basically you're going to clamp it down like this right here. Okay, so now I'm going to put the last bracket on here. This is going to go right here around this tube. Got the clamp on there, so now I'm just going to tighten it up, and don't forget to watch out for the sensor under there in the wire. Okay, there that is. So I've got everything together now, and this is what I like to do just to make sure nothing is in a bind. We're going to loosen this clamp right here. We're going to wiggle the tube a little bit. Okay, if there's any type of bind, then this sleeve will actually move and will release the bind. So now it's time to tighten it up. And by the way, this is a 8mm socket for the clamp. So don't be afraid to tighten it if you're using heavy duty clamps. If you're using lightweight clamps, be afraid to tighten it. Just tighten it as tight as you can without over torquing it. And you can tell when these things start to give. Okay. So I'm done with this job now. But you're going to see I still haven't put the alternator on yet. Well, I'm going to be finishing that video up here in a minute. So if you decided to take the alternator off, watch my alternator video. And like I said before, that video should be on right before this one. If not, just look it up under Starkey Family, Fixing and Rigging Up. So as for this is done on this video, I'm done. This is Scott with Starkey Family, Fixing and Rigging Up. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've saved some money doing this by yourself. And if you follow my procedures on this, it's a very simple job. Thank you. And don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button. Bye.